Did a brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, and we are back for another episode of Millsy Brews, show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the Commander in front of us on my quest to outbrew your favorite Magic channel. We are in another week of Wilds of Eldraine, and I think this is going to be my last main week of Wilds of Eldraine content. Next week, we still have a few Wilds of Eldraine commanders left, but I think I'm going to start pairing in some other stuff. People have had some requests and things like that, as well as we'll keep going on in my update series, updating you guys on the progress of my main decks and my test decks and things like that. As usual, if you're interested, deck list is down in the description. Do me a favor, I appreciate to those of you that have been letting me know in my older videos when the deck list links have changed. Please keep letting me know. It's something that I appreciate. Hopefully I can get those all fixed for you guys, and that way you still have access. But today's video is on Totentanz Swarm Piper Rakdos rats, or a type of rat, or I guess aristocrats if you want to go that way, but we're kind of combining them. We're kind of doing rats and aristocrats. He is a 3-mana 2/3 human warlock bard. It says whenever another non-token creature dies, you control dies. We create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block, and for 1 black we can make a rat have death touch until end of turn. Of course, rats very well known for being mono black. We actually just did a deck list for Ash Code of the Shadow Swarm back in Jumpstart 2022. You can find that on the channel. Rats are not a tribe that I pay attention to, not a tribe that I build around, but I think this is kind of interesting, and this would be up my alley because this isn't a rat colony deck type of experience. It could be if you wanted to. If you wanted to make this a rat colony deck, I think it would work. But what I tried to do is combine our relevant rat cards that I think are important with our relevant aristocrats cards to see if we can kind of try to make a conglomerate that works the best. The intention is you're turning we get rats from some cards, or for some cards when they die, they give us rats. Rats can't block, so we have to attack with them. We're going to put in some ways to help them attack, and hopefully we can kind of play Rakdos mid-range to kind of, hurt our opponents, and hopefully as our creatures die, they're hurting our opponents as well. We don't just want to, use the rats in combat to hurt our opponents. We kind of also want to, do a double-pronged attack with our triggers as well. Start with the mana base. It's been a long time since I've built a Rakdos mana base. I just tried my best. Not playing Blood Crypt, not playing the Mire, just playing what I think are fairly attainable Rakdos lands. I still think it works really well. Most of our things are going to come in untapped, and the things that come in tapped, we don't mind because they're going to give us that nice ramp for the next turn. I like Castle Lochthwain when we can play it in black decks. It's just great draw, more than you think it is later in the game. Deck is leaning a lot more black than red, so we've got a good split in the basics there, and we're just playing a ton of fun black-red lands. Getting up into the enchantments, we get to play some of my favorite red enchantments as far as for combat goes, but we get to mix it in with a couple fun black enchantments. First off, Agent of the Iron Throne is one of my favorite aristocrats enchantments. It says commander creatures we own have, so when Totentanz is out, it has the ability whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses a life. So anytime we sack treasures, we have some ways to do that, or a creature or one of our tokens dies, each opponent loses a life. This is going to help us not only hurt our opponents, but what I like about a card like Bastion of Remembrance, Ancient Iron Throne, and then in a second, Bastion of Remembrance is, as we attack with our tokens, they're kind of free attacks because they're going to deal damage either way. Now, if we combined the style effect, like Bastion of Remembrance, which says whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent loses life when we gain a life, with something like Grave Pact, which is an enchantment that says whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent has to sacrifice a creature, well then we can hopefully keep our opponents down as we establish value on our side of the board. Goblin Bombardment says we can sacrifice a creature to deal 1 damage to any target, so of course this plus either of those 2 cards we just talked about will deal extra damage. Impact Tremor is going to deal damage to each opponent when a creature comes in on our battlefield, so that's pretty helpful as well. Raid Bombardment says whenever a creature we control with power 2 or less attacks, it deals 1 damage to that player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. This is going to help because if the rats attack and they get blocked, they're still going to deal damage to our opponent. And the only downside to Raid Bombardment is we are playing some ways to buff our rats up. And so there could potentially be a game where Raid Bombardment doesn't actually end up triggering because our creatures are too big. But we can't be afraid to not put Raid Bombardment in just because of that. If we don't manage to see any of the other cards, I think Raid Bombardment still becomes really important, and it still does good value for us. Rising of the Day, giving all of our creatures haste and buffing up our legendary creatures +1/+0. Shared Animosity is one of the primary cards we want for those combats, and it says that each creature we control attacks, and when it attacks, it gets +1/+0 for each creature that shares a creature type with it. And with a board full of rats, our rats are going to, they only get +1/+0, but they're going to hit hard, and they're going to go from, hey, I can just chump this, to, oh, I actually have to make big decisions when blocking this creature. And then Tribute to Hirobi is a flip saga from Kamigawa and Dynasty, but it fits here. 1 and 2, everybody gets a rat rogue creature token, and then when we flip it, we get all of those rogues back. And then whenever it dies, we can sack another creature if we do draw a card. So it gives us another sack outlet to draw cards if we want to, and it is in the air, which is helpful. Getting up into our artifacts, most of them are going to be ramp or ramp-esque type artifacts. The only 2 that aren't are, or the only one, I guess, truly that isn't, is Coat of Arms, a way to just give all our creatures +1/+1 for each creature on the battlefield that shares a type with it. The only downside to Coat of Arms is it does help our opponents, because it says each creature, not each creature we control. But obviously we want to try to place ourselves in scenarios where we're going to take advantage of that and our opponents can't. We're playing Bantu's Monument for a little bit of reduction. Again, most of our spells are black, so this is going to reduce by 1, and whenever we cast a creature, everyone loses 1, we gain 1, and Jet Medallion, both going to bring black spells down. As far as for mana rocks, we have Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, Felwar Stone. I have a good feeling that we're going to play against a red or black deck most of the time you sit down at a table, so I feel like Felwar Stone feels good here. Rakdos Signet, Soul Ring, and that Talisman. And then Skull Clamp, since we're making 1/1 rats, if we don't have any of those abilities out, we can clamp one of our rats or 2 cards. That helps us with that card draw. Getting into the spells, try to do a pretty good mix of removal and taking advantage of what we have. Bedevil, pretty fun removal, getting rid of a target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Body Count, it's a fun card. It says we draw a card for each creature that died under our control this turn. Take an attack, and it has Spectacle, so if an opponent lost life this turn, we can pay it for a single black. We could potentially do that with some of our cards that care about creatures dying, or there's other ways we can do that. But probably what will end up happening is if our rats are attacking, one of them dies and triggers one of our abilities, now Body Count's going to only cost us 1 black, draw a bunch of cards, refill our hand, hopefully get into more lands and our in our mana artifacts and keep us going. Chaos Warp for some removal. Corrupted Conviction is basically an effective reprint of Village Rites in the deck. It says an additional cost of the spell. We can sack a creature if we do draw 2 cards. Again, we can either sack a token creature, and then Totentanz will get us that 1/1 rat, or we can sacrifice a rat. Dark Ritual will help us either get out Totentanz faster or help us play some spells. Deadly Dispute, very similar to Corrupted Conviction and Village Rites. We can sack an artifact or a creature, and then it draws us 2 cards and creates a treasure. Gnawing Crescendo just seems kind of interesting. It says creatures we control get +2/+0 until end of turn, and then it says whenever a non-token creature you control dies this turn, we get a 1/1 rat. So it kind of doubles Totentanz's ability if he's out as well. The thing I think could be interesting about Gnawing Crescendo is if we get the rats into combat and people block thinking that they're safe, maybe the Gnawing Crescendo could kind of help us out in that blocking situation. Infernal Grasp and Terminate, both going to destroy our creature, and then Village Rites, again, same ability as that. Corrupted Conviction. Blasphemous Act, one of our 2 board wipes of choice. Blasphemous Act is almost always going to only cost us 1 red, as it costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. Good way to take out most of the things on the board. It's playing 1 tutor in the Diabolic Intent. Again, we're going to have plenty of creatures laying around it because we want our creatures to die. The additional cost having to sacrifice a creature can work into our benefit. Faithless Looting for some draw. Feed the Swarm to destroy target creature or enchantment. We lose life to its mana value. This is one of the only ways we have in black in this color combination besides that Chaos Warp to take out enchantments, so we still want that option if there. Otherwise, we have plenty of ways to take out creatures. Kindred Dominance is our probably main board wipe of choice other than Toxic Deluge if we can handle it. It says choose a creature type, destroy all creatures that aren't of that type. We pick rat, destroy all the things that aren't rats. Yes, it takes out Totentanz, but Totentanz's ability will see everything dying and get us the rats. Lich's Knight's Conquest, we can sacrifice any number or target of artifacts, enchantments, or tokens and return that many creatures from our graveyard to the battlefield. With enough rat tokens in the battlefield and enough creatures in our graveyard, we can sack all our rat tokens, bring all those creatures back, and then hopefully use Totentanz to get rat tokens again. Song of Totentanz, a spell that I have a lot of love for in some of the decks that I play, feels like an all-star here. X-Rat, just make X-Rat tokens with this creature can't block, but then all your creatures gain haste until a turn. I love it. We can put a bunch of mana into it. Maybe Dark Ritual can help us with that, or do a bunch of other things. Toxic Deluge, pay X life, all creatures get -X. -X, this is a great way to get around Indestructible, Shroud, Hexproof. Just take out a board, hopefully. Or if we have our bunch of rats out and one of our death triggers, maybe we can take about the whole board and hurt our opponents in the process. And then Victimize. We choose 2 creatures in our graveyard, sacrifice 1, bring them back. This is great. Get rid of a rat token, bring 2 creatures back out of our graveyard. I like these reanimating styles effects. I just wasn't sure how many to put into the deck. I wasn't sure if we'd get enough of the value we wanted from it. So maybe if we test this deck, if you guys test this deck, maybe you'll realize you want more of that reanimation. Put in things like Phyrexian Reclamation, or things to get things back, reanimate, those kind of things. Maybe those become more important. I just wasn't sure. It's hard sometimes when you're putting a list together to know where your ratios need to be. The creatures in the deck are going to be mostly rats. The creatures that aren't rats are the creatures that are going to help us out with our aristocrat platform. Adaptive Automaton, when it comes in, we pick a type. Of course, we're going to pick rat. It comes in as a rat, and then it gets +1/+1 to all of the rats, which is pretty cool. Ash Code of the Shadow Swarm is, like I said, a commander we took a look at back in Jumpstart 2022, but I think it's a really fun card for this deck, especially because it's probably going to hit people out of nowhere in all of those rat tokens. It says when it attacks or blocks, other rats you control get +X/+X on the turn, where X is the number of rats you control. I can get out of hand quickly, and here's another coat of arms style effect for us. It says at the beginning and end step, you may mill 4 cards. If you do, return up to 2 rat creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. We may not want to do that all the time because our deck's not chock full of rats. But again, +X/+X, whenever it attacks or blocks, is really important, and that provides the opportunity maybe for our non-token rats to help Ash and Ash Code up block if need be. Ayara, First of Locthwain, seems like a slam dunk. Whenever it or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. And then we can sacrifice another black creature to draw a card. So Ayara on her own, anytime we make one of those rats, everybody's going to lose one and we gain one. And then we can always sack a non-token rat to, make a token and get her trigger and draw a card. Or she's just going to stick around and give us that benefit. Blood Artist. Anytime one of our creature dies, target player loses a life and we gain a life. Again, here we go. It's not complete. It's not everyone. It's not hitting everyone like Ayara does, but it can help us potentially take out someone targeted or help finish somebody off if need be. Burglar Rat, when it comes in, everybody discards a card. It's not an effect that's as important as it is maybe in 1v1 formats, but I still think a little bit of discard is good. I think in Commander, people get so used to their hand being kind of sacred and having exactly what they need, and you aren't used to seeing turn 1 Thought Seizes or anything like that, at least not in casual EDH. But, we have seen prevalence of black decks like Turgrid do a really good job at forcing things out of people's hands and seeing how powerful it is. A Burglar Rat, just making everybody discard 1 for 2 mana, and it's a rat that then we can use to get a token out of or use for Ash Coat's effect or Coat of Arms. I like it. I think it's worth the 2 mana. Changing Outcast is every creature type, so of course it's a rat. Drivnod, this is what we're hopefully going to use to double up all of our abilities. It says when a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers additional time. Double the Totentanz triggers, double those death triggers. Again, Drivnod is worth it for the mana. We can probably, maybe at some point in the game, we could probably make it indestructible, which will help us a ton, so that way it can stick around and block. And it is also an 8/3, so it could be hard for people to deal with. Garna, Bloodfist of Kel, says whenever another creature we control dies, draw a card if it was attacking, otherwise it deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is almost perfect for our rats if they die in combat, because we're just going to draw a card when they die, or if they aren't, then we lose the life. I like the utility here. I wish you could get both out of it, but I like the utility that if they're dying, we still get our other triggers, but we could draw a card off guard, and if not, then it just deals 1. Judith gives all of our creatures +1/+0. And that says when a non-token creature we control dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Yes, if it said when any creature died, it dealt 1 damage to any target, Judith would be definitely a lot better. But I still think we would need some insurance for our creatures dying and getting benefit out of it. And I think the +1/+0 from Judith, the wider we go, is going to be better for us as well. I think she's worth the 3 mana for that reason. Carmonix, the Rat King from Phyrexian 1, giving all of our rats Toxic 1. It could matter. People let 5 or 6 of those little rats go through. Now they're getting poison counters, and it could be hard for them to deal with that in the long run. And then when it enters the battlefield, we look at the top 5, revealing a number of rats among them and put them in our hand and put the rest on the bottom. So we don't lose those to the graveyard. We just pick out the rats from the top, put them in our hand, put the rest on the bottom. And that can help us potentially get more creatures for Totentanz to turn into rat tokens. Lord Skitter's Butcher was a card that I both love the art of and I love the effect of. The art's fantastic. You see the rat with the Butcher Cleaver. But I like the ability. When it comes in, we choose one. We make a rat, sack another creature. If we do, scry 2, then draw a card. Or all of our creatures get Menace until end of turn. Menace is important, and Menace could actually lead one of our attacks to being a lot more lethal than it would have been otherwise, depending on how our opponents are set up. Maybe they can't chump as many of our 1/1 rats that turn into 5 or 6 ones by other abilities, and now we see a turn where we deal more damage than we thought they would. Worst case scenario, we can make that rat, but I think more often than not, I'd probably want to sack that creature, scry 2, and then draw. Lord Skitter, Sewer King from the new set. Whenever another rat enters the battlefield under our control, we exile up to 1 target card from an opponent's graveyard. What's cool here is we're going to have a ton of rats coming in. It didn't say non-token, so we can kind of play around with people's graveyards, get their cards out of the way. And the beginning combat of our turn, we make a rat. So this is great because we're just going to every turn make another rat. Mahadi's a fun card. It says when at the beginning of each end step, we make a treasure for each creature that died this turn. This helps us play into that. This and one other card we'll talk about help us play into that. That Agent of the Iron Throne, because it said artifacts and creatures that go to the graveyard. So this is going to help us with that. Marinar, probably one of the most popular rat commanders of all time, saying that all rats have fear, which means they can only be blocked, if I recall correctly, it's by artifact creatures or creatures that share a color with it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what fear is. And it says sacrifice a rat, put X1/1 black rat creature opens into play where X is the number of rats you control. Here is a great sack outlet where we take these rats that maybe we can either recur, get back to our hand, or play, get their abilities, sacrifice them, get a bunch of rat tokens, and these rat tokens can block, but really it's just more bodies to attack with. Mayhem Devil, whenever anyone sacrifices a permanent, it deals 1 damage to any target. This is great because this works for opponents and for us. Sacrifice things, get the benefit out of it. Mirkwood Bats from Lord of the Rings, probably one of the most popular aristocrat cards of the last year. Whenever we create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. So when the rat comes in, we get it. When one of our creatures dies, or when we sacrifice one of our tokens, or they die, or a life to our opponent, or damage to our opponents. A life loss for our opponents. I like Mirkwood Bats. It's a very good card. And in a deck like this, where we're going to be doing this, it makes a lot of sense. Same thing here with Nadiger's Nightblade. Whenever a token we control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses a life and we gain a life. Again, many of these pings we can get out, the better. Maybe one of our rats turn into a 3 or 4 life loss swing for opponents and 1 or 2 life for us. Ogre Chitterlord with Menace, and it comes in, we make 2 rats, and then if we control 5 or more rats, each rats get +2/+0 until end of turn. So this is a 6 mana body, 6/5 body that comes with 2 1/1s and potentially a +2/+0. So I think it's well worth it. And we also have Ogre Slumlord. Whenever another non-token creature dies, we make another rat creature token, and then rats we control have Death Touch. Again, I like this. Makes our rats harder to chump block in combat. And again, now with Ogre Slumlord and Totentanz out, we're getting 2 rats instead of 1. Pack Rat. Power and toughness equal to the number of rats we control, so this is great. This is a great body for that. And then we can pay 2 and pitch a card to put a token that's a copy of Pack Rat on the battlefield. Love it. I mean, that feels great. If we don't have any mana, pitch a card, make another Pack Rat. It's going to be huge, and it's going to get good in combat. Piper the Swarm, all our rats have Menace. 1 in the black to get another rat, 4 mana to sack 3 rats to take control of target creature. This is a fun card. I think it'll end up being good just for the Menace alone. But if not, we can potentially have some fun and shenanigans. Pitiless Plunderer, another one of our death triggers, whatever creature we control dies, we make it a treasure. Oh, there we go. Just like Mahadi, these are treasures that are going to affect that Agent of the Iron Throne, but not just that, just that's more mana, right? I mean, it's easy to look at treasures and say, oh, they're just artifacts for me to sacrifice. No, they're mana. They're mana that are going to help us on future turns, and I think that's important. Rat Colony, I'm only playing one just because the cost of Rat Colony is ridiculous. I would love to have 10, 15 Rat Colonies in this deck because I think it would make it better structurally, but I mean at $5 or $6 a rat colony, it's not feasible. It's +1 +4 for each other rat we control, and again, a deck can have any number of cards named Rat Colony. It's good as a one-of, I still think. I mean, obviously, if you have a bunch of them laying around or you're content with proxying a bunch of them, go for it. I think Rat Colony just outclasses some of the other rats, maybe besides Pack Rat that we have in the deck. I like it. Swarm of Rats, very similar to Pack Rat, except its power is equal to the number of rats we haven't played, not both. Again, not a bad attacker if need be. Tangled Colony, when it dies, we make X/1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block, where X is the number of damage dealt to it this turn. So that's not bad. You do have a fun scenario where if you have a Tangled Colony on board and you hit a Blasphemous Act, you will get 13 rats. Off of the Tangled Colony. So, I mean, that's a fun interaction that you have access to if you manage to have it happen. Twisted Sewer Witch, when it enters the battlefield, we make a rat, and then for each rat you control, we create a wicked token that's attached to that rat. So it's as if it gets +1/+1, and then when this ore is put into the graveyard, each opponent loses a life. So when we sacrifice that rat, the roll token is going to have them lose a life, and then hopefully we have other abilities that are losing them lives. And then Zolpor Cutthroat, one of my favorite aristocrat payoffs. Whenever it or another creature dies, each opponent loses a life, and you gain a life. So you can see we're trying to stack all of these losing life effects on top of hopefully just getting a lot of good value out of our rats. Hopefully we can do enough fun in combat where we can deal damage to our opponents and not just make these 1/1s since they can't block. Again, I'm not sure where the deck leans. I mean, I feel like it's a nice mid-range deck. It'll probably have some fun at a table. If you were looking for rats and you didn't want to go mono black, I feel like this is a great option to add another color, add some fun of the red, and you can even pull more red in if you want to. Just, of course, most of those rats sit in black, so it's easy to kind of designate that deck towards black. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Rakdos Rats. I had more fun, honestly, putting this one together than I thought I would. It's a fun idea. I love tribal decks. They're probably one of my favorite favorite deck types of all time. I very much enjoy them. And of course, Wizards has shown time and time again they're going to print more rats. So hopefully we see new rats in the future. But again, Wilds of Eldraine had a lot of really good stuff, it feels like, for this. Ashcoat's still probably my favorite new card for the tribe. I love this card. Again, I did that brew back in Jumpstart 2020. You can check that out if you're looking for more of a mono black rats build, and it might even be a perfect one for that Rat Colony style deck if you're interested. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I will catch you guys next time.